Hello, everyone, and welcome to Talk Together. Thank you for joining us for this evening of talking about Dungeons and Dragons. I'm Tom Jancis, and I shall be your host tonight. I shall be talking to the ever delightful Emma, who just doing like the royal wave, like hello.
I am also present.
I am also here.
I brought my Christmas tree.
I was going to say it's beautifully festive. Meanwhile, I'm just in a void. There's a door, but I will never exit that door. I am stuck in this void. Yes. So, okay, let's see if we can get this under an hour. Because the last one I did with Chris, it just
Chris right has a lot to say about everything, and I feel like Chris just extends time. So
yeah. It was delightful. It wasn't within an hour, but it was a lovely time. Yes, so...
Proof that Chris also lives with me, just,
Chris will just turn up in recordings. Chris, Paladin, people will just wander in and out. Ships in the night. See, I'm getting distracted again. Why we're here, talk together, enticing questions, adventurous anecdotes. How do we do the questions? Well, it's thanks to this beautiful dice, or die.
Dice. I like that one.
So shiny. It's glittery.
It's very shiny. Yeah.
Yes, for those of you who are on the wiki, there's a smaller argument about the dice die thing. We're just... I think someone's like, well, in the 17th century, they used this term. You're like, well, going back to the 17th century. Wow. Yeah.
It's intense.
Just a couple of days.
To go back in history to make your argument, you've probably not got the hang of linguistics.
No. We were like, well, this was fine for the 18th century. You're like, great.
I knew someone who was studying linguistics when I was at university, and their main thing was like, if it's in use now and people understand it, it's fine. That is linguistics, which I really like as an approach.
I saw something the other day where someone was like, actually, there is a word that rhymes with orange. It's sporange, which is a bit of a fungi. It's where they keep the spores. And you're like,
cool.
Which would be useful if you're ever like in a rhyming competition.
Someone just throws it out and you can be like, yeah, sporange.
Yeah, sporange. I think it was like orange, silver, and purple. Those are the three colours that people were like, sure. Anyway, so this stream will not run for an hour. It will go much longer because we will just go off on these little paths. And we are delighted to be sponsored by Hero Forge, Ultra Pro, Elderwood Academy, and we are supported by D&D Beyond, Warriors of Waterdeep, and Level Up Dice. Final bit of the gubbins. We are Roll Together RPG on social media, and a massive thank you to our D20 club on Patreon, our dice heads. Our shows are available as podcasts. Just search Roll Together RPG on your favourite podcasting app. Hello, Emma.
I hate intros. I think they're my least favourite bit of the entire DMing experience. I hate
how
it.
do you do it sincerely? You're just like...
I don't. If you were here for my first intros, which I think are Theros, it's a lot of me going like, blah, 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 pause. Oh, I hate this. Blah, 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 blah. What am I supposed to be saying? Awful.
I find it so difficult, especially when doing it with other people. You're just like, you're almost like trying to cover that person. You're just like, no. And now we're done. So, yes. So we have some questions that you have answered before. Yeah. We have some other things to talk about, some other exciting upcoming things. Or, as we said, we could spend an hour talking about your favorite character. When we were preparing this, we're like, we need this person, and then just turned up as like, I could talk about Prosp'rus. We're like, yeah, okay, P, yeah, no, we could do an hour about P.
I don't think I could talk for an hour about Prosp'rus.
Yeah,
maybe like 45 minutes.
A time 45, like a Q&A. First question: why they're the best? Why P best? Actually. We'll get to that, I think. But let's. I mean, with Chris, I rolled once, and then we went on to talk about Inception. So let's try and please.
Let's not talk about Inception because I've not seen it. So.
Oh God! If I was just like, well, so it starts in Paris, and you're just like, oh, good, you're going to explain me. Any other films do you like to explain to me? Okay, right at like the 6-minute mark, friends. Put it in the chat. Let's throw that dice. Or die.
Roll that dice. Roll that dice.
That is lucky number 5. Again, if you've answered any of these, just yell at me. So, Anne, what do you feel about cosplay?
I really like cosplay. Like, I really enjoy seeing other people's cosplays because I do a lot of craft myself. Like, I do a lot of sewing. I knit, I embroider, I quilt. Oh my God, I do every craft going. Not to a super high standard. Like, I'm pretty good, all of them, but I'm not like amazing because, jack of all trades, master of none, the whole thing. But I love having the variety. So I really enjoy looking at other people's cosplays because I really admire all of the crafting that goes into it. But I don't want to do that myself because that means you have to spend like hours of your life working on one thing, whereas I like to spend like hours of my life working on 50 different things. But I follow so many cosplayers on Instagram and on Twitter where I love seeing what they create, and the makeup is just really cool. I love seeing it. I don't want to do it, but I really enjoy it. Also, I have like skin allergies, so like makeup's not fantastic. Like full face of makeup, like in terms of skin paint, is not great for me. But like, I love watching other people and seeing what they do. I just think it's brilliant. There's someone who did an amazing Wonder Woman cosplay, and it's just like, she's really, really hot, and she's like really muscly, and it's great. Like, yeah, I can't remember if I could remember her Twitter handle, I'd shout her out. But like, it's really good.
You could just end up going down an interesting rabbit hole where you're like, Wonder Woman cosplay. You're like, well, that's good, and that's good. Oh, that's got greaves. Like to see someone's metalworked that. Yeah. So do you find that's the way you work? You like to work on a lot of things at the same time? Is that sort of like the way your mind works?
I'm currently looking at like 4 different things I'm working on right now. In fact, I don't know if you can see this pillow, it's probably out of shot, but I made that. You can see that, Tom.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Mod, just to pan over to the kitchen, pan back again. Oh, that's, again, I think, like I was saying this on previous shows where I'm just like, wow, for not having those kind of skills where I'm just like, amazing. You did that. You made that. That came from you. Yes. So again, you said, sort of, do you think you end up working on a lot of things? Do you get bored doing it, or do you just suddenly get an inspiration like, oh, I could work on this? Is that just...
I don't ever get bored of a craft in entirety. Like, I never like, I'm done with knitting now, I will never knit again. Like that doesn't happen to me. And what happens is I will be like, I'm doing 50 cross-stitch projects at the moment. And then the next day I'll be like, someone posted a really cool quilt. Maybe I should start quilting. And then I'll buy all of the stuff I need to make a quilt and I'll start making a quilt. And then I'll be all in on quilting and I'll make like 30 quilts the next year. But I'll go back to the things that I used to do previously. So I'll have like, I've got cross-stitch projects, I've got knitting projects on the go. I'm making a quilt at the moment. But I have this issue where like, I'll see something and like, I'll be like, yes, I can do that. And then I'll go all in and be like, and now I'm going to make 30,000 of them this year, which is not super sustainable because then you're like, well, now I've made all the quilts and now I'm just going to go back to making clothes again. There's only so many quilts one person can have.
I say it's much smaller, but you've still got 30,000 of these cross stitches just going. That's a bit actually sort of going back, like makeup stuff aside. Is there any character you particularly would be like, yes, if I could, if we were like, we're having a cosplay festival next month, you'd be like, yeah, I'm going to go for that character?
So one from live play and one from a home game. Trix. I think Trix's outfit is really cool. It's like a sort of leather coat. There's like knuckle dusters. They're really cool boots. Trix's outfit is really cool, and also like the hair is very cool. And then like, would you cosplay them being half leopard or not? Like, there's a lot of choice with Trix. And then from a home game, I have Desi, who's a tiefling paladin. She's blue. She has like oryx horns. And she also wears like a black coat and has like, that's embroidered with different like tattoo styles. And she has a lot of tattoos. So they're 2 very different styles of character, but I guess kind of have a similar aesthetic. Like, it's quite goth punky. Those are the 2 that I'd like gravitate towards.
And then they'll give you an excuse to buy lots of really cool coats.
Correct. And then I just wear the coats forever.
Yeah. You have to wear them in. It's life on the road.
Yeah,
You're just
Once you've bought a coat, coats are very expensive purchases. So once you've bought a coat, then you have to wear it for at least 3 years before you wear it out.
But it is just a great idea. Where even if you had the coat, you're like, yeah, my character's wearing this type of coat, so cosplay. I'm possibly going to be doing something where they were like, oh, you might have to be a character, and I was like, my character wears a hat, just wears a blue hat. I've got a blue hat. That's what I'll look like, which is on the very far end of exciting cosplay, as opposed to sort of, oh, as I said, again, as soon as you mentioned tieflings, you're like, so many different types of horns.
Yeah, horns, wings, tails.
Yeah.
Tieflings are really cool. Like, you can do a lot with them, and like different styles of horns as well. Like, tieflings are very, very versatile.
And again, I love it when people were like, well, technically, there should be different colors of red. You're like, alternatively, what if he was purple?
Or maybe we'll not just be like, oh yeah, the book says specifically this. We'll be like, maybe we'll just use our imagination and like expand.
As you can see, we both have strong feelings. Oh, lovely.
Yeah, my issue is that all my characters are blue, so I really need to expand out. So I have 2 blue paladins. So Desi is blue tiefling paladin. Prosp'rus is blue half orc paladin. So I really need to expand out from blue because it's getting a bit safe. And then I started a video game and I made a character and I was like, oh shit, they're a paladin. They're also blue. I was like, for fuck's sake, Emma, just like, stop it.
It is that thing where you start going, this is the type I like to, as you said, well, you adore paladins. So that's
I do, but they don't all have to be blue. They could be different colours. Not all paladins have to be blue, as it turns out. Some paladins can be green, maybe. Yeah.
Yes. Maybe we'll be seeing a green paladin in the not too distant future. Just saying.
Maybe we will.
We're not going to go any further on that. You know. Actually, we'll loop back.
We'll bring that one back.
We'll bring it back because yes. Hey, chat. You know what time it is?
That's time.
That's time. That is number 15, which actually, well, that's just us not having to change the topic. Where do you start when you're designing a character?
Oh, I answered this one last time.
Well, then, just anything you'd like to add, or just?
I think I went quite in depth, so yeah. I think I'm good. You can go back and watch it. I'm quite happy with my answer to this. I can't remember what I said, but I'm quite pleased with what I said last time. I think
you're just doing the previous comment.
Yeah. I think it was quite a good answer. I don't want to ruin it by saying something shit now.
But as established, not all paladins need to be blue. That's the one addendum that we've had.
Yeah, just note to myself, like now on my screen, like don't, if you're making a paladin, just check what skin color they are. Make them just make them pink.
Yeah, just fluorescent pink. They don't have to be stealthy.
I mean, if they're as Paladin's clearly demonstrating, Paladins are not stealthy.
Yes, our resolution to that is see previous episode. Okay, yes. Chat, Sparkles, roll that dice. It is a 4. Number 4. Who would you love to have at your gaming table?
Oh, that's tricky. I should have thought about that in advance. In terms of like celebrities or just anyone?
I mean, we could mix and match, although that does get a bit where you're like this is my friend and this is Shakespeare.
Fantasy people, or like historic people.
Ooh, let's go fantasy.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we're going fantasy, then Lyriel from the Garth Nix Sabriel of Horse and Lyriel book, because I just think she'd be really interesting. From the Divine and the comic that I'm currently reading, The Divine and something.
The one with
Wicked
modern
and Divine.
gods. Yeah.
Yes. So Lucifer, who dies in the first book, I just think she's really cool.
She is, yeah.
Any action movie hero played by Bruce Willis. Any action movie hero played by Harrison Ford. Maybe Han Solo.
Interesting. 4. I mean,
no. So specifically, Bruce Willis from The Fifth Element. Bruce Willis's character from The Fifth Element and Han Solo.
Yes.
It's going to be such a good, weird mix of people. And then it needs someone like sensible to round it off. Sensible. Geralt from The Witcher.
He's just drawing. Is he playing or is he DMing? Because I can imagine him just being like,
I'm DMing,
You're DMing,
and these people are playing.
Right.
And it's going to be a chaotic, beautiful mess where they all try and kill everybody, I'm sure. Probably also try and kill each other, maybe. Yeah.
It's a weird diplomatic thing where you're like, there will be no killing at the table. Peace. Gerald, weapons down, Han, no, just...
Like, I've chosen some really odd periods there. There's like high fantasy versus like sci-fi versus like modern time. Yeah, very odd.
And then the actual devil is just sitting there going... No, I read that series during lockdown. It's like the local library. And it's that thing of just going, I've got some time. It's that weird thing where you're doing those sort of like, oh, how many books have you read? I was like, I've just read a lot of graphic novels. I can get through it in an afternoon.
Graphic novels are a lot faster.
Yeah.
I'm halfway through The Wicked and Divine, but I'm really enjoying it.
Again, it's a I think I've got like 2 more books to read, but I'll come back to them. They're not going anywhere, you know. So yes, as you said, a weird sort of chaotic, you know, sort of. Any idea of what kind of campaign you'd want to do, or you're going to one-shot it, or?
My campaigns are always very based around divinity. They're always, pretty much all of my home games have been questioning ideas of like, what does faith mean? What does having gods mean? What does it mean if the gods aren't there? What does it mean if the gods are like trying to all kill each other? So it would probably be something along those lines, because that is generally just the thing that I kind of gravitate towards, even if I'm not trying to. Like Swiss in the Feywild was not supposed to be that, and in the end it ended up being another one about gods and faith. I can't help myself. They go that way.
It's just supposed to be a lovely, I think you were like, it's supposed to be a lovely time in the Feywild, bit of mischief, and it was like, cool, we're getting into deep religious. You know?
Sometimes things just come out. Like, I wasn't planning the hearts, and then in the moment I was like, yeah, she's trying to rip your heart out. I was like, oh God, now I have to roll with it. Like, I said it now. We're going there.
And again, people in chat going, isn't that gross? You're like, yes, in world. We're also going, you know, just watching these beating hearts dropping from the sky going, do you want those? Are those what you want?
That final combat though, I really enjoyed that. Like, it was a glorious come together of everything that had been in the campaign thus far. And the talking of the wiki, like watching someone else try and summarize the plot that you as a DM created, because I don't think I've ever spoken about a writing process. What I don't do is sit down and go, here is the story I'm going to tell. Here is how it will fit into 12 episodes. Boom, done. Now we tell it. What I do is go, here's my idea. I'll write the first episode. We'll see how it goes. And then I'll write like bits as we go. And I'll have like a pretty good idea of what the place is going to look like and what I'm trying to aim towards. But I won't be like, here is how I know it's going to happen. I'll be like, I have a general idea of what I want. I have no idea how we're going to get there, but we're going to get there. It'll happen. So watching someone else be like, this is what happened in Flustered, and it looks chaotic as all hell. I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. That's pretty much how my writing process is. Chris always be like, so do you have your plan for tomorrow? I'll be like, no, I'm going to write it at like 5:00 before we record at 6. Because it works better for me. I can't write without the pressure of the looming deadline.
It makes sense, and especially if you're doing a campaign like ours where we're like, cool, we want to go over there now, and you're like, sure, you want an argument with the mayor, that's great.
The thing that I did with Flustered that I really enjoyed was I did build the entire town for Flustered. So I knew where everything was, I knew who lived there, I knew generally what their link in with the plot was and what they could tell you. So that was very good for the first few episodes, because it meant that wherever you decided to go, I had something for you when you went there. And then when it started to move on in the plot, that was when I needed to start being a bit more like, oh, I'll have to actually think of what that looks like. But I really enjoyed that, and that felt more home gamey for me than I guess most streamed games, because especially on such a tight timeline, it's very rare that you get the chance to go like, here's a town, off you go, explore, do what you want. It's usually like, here's a quest, go do the quest. You've done that quest, go do this quest. Here's another quest, go do that quest. And I quite liked the way that the characters interacted with each other and formed bonds through just having kind of an open world to go and explore. And I don't think you necessarily get that. You get that in a very different way through doing quests than you do by going like, we have made these choices. Oh dear Lord, we made those choices.
Yeah. And I think, we didn't completely destroy the town, we didn't,
fine.
Yeah, it was good. It was fine. We're still sure everyone's a hag, and we will be probably until the day we die. But yeah, no, as you're saying, like the fun of looking at the wiki and going, oh, that's what you thought. Like, they're like, oh, they had a bit of a hard battle at the end. Where I'm sitting there going, everyone's dying. I think I said in character, I was like, we could just go, Ogden, we could just leave.
I thought you were all going to die. I was like, oh God, I've pushed this too far. Everyone's going to die.
Would we have lost our hearts? Is that the reason, or would someone come and save us, do you think?
It was a potential. It was a potential to happen. It would have been an awful end to the campaign, because also that wasn't what I'd set up going in. So I don't think I would have made that choice to the DM, because that wasn't what I'd set the campaign up to be. So it would have felt like a real unfair move on the players, because I hadn't set up that the characters were like real threat of dying in the campaign, and I don't think that's necessarily fair then to be like, and now I rip out your character's heart. That just doesn't feel quite fair. So I don't think I would have actually done that necessarily to a player, but luckily I didn't have to make that choice in game about how I was going to circumvent that, because there were, like, I made other choices throughout the combat to get it to the point where you as players managed to like pull it back. But I was sat there for a bit like, oh God, I'm going to be known as the DM who TPKs on Roll Together. Like, I've done it in 2 campaigns, like once deliberately, potentially once accidentally. I'm going to get a name for myself.
I just like the idea of it being like, the bad ending of a video game, where it was like, the theatre always wondered what happened in an old Georgie. They never knew. The theatre then shut because those two are so important, and just like, Pip's Forest just carried on. Don't think they ever noticed he was there, If you ever want to do like a depressing one shot, you're like, this is the alternate version where we all died, and then it's just like, cool, this insane version of a goddess is now spreading out across the Feywild.
Yeah. I think like it's interesting, because I think it would have been an interesting ending if someone had died, but I think if that were going to be the case, potentially I would have paused in the moment to check it with people, because we hadn't gone over that in session 0, because I hadn't considered that was a possibility, and I wasn't setting up that was a possibility. And I think like sometimes people aren't expecting it. It's not fair to like spring it on them. I know always in D&D there's a possibility your character will die, but I think some campaigns are very geared towards like, be aware your character may die in this campaign. Reaping is very much like, be aware your character might die in this campaign, whereas like Flustered was never set up to be like that. So I just think it would have been a bit unfair.
But a hell of a twist. Where you're just like, yeah, they're all dead. And it's just one little darkling at the end going, oh, tell the tale. Oh, the fact that you all didn't get to see the darkling death episode, it's just like, it's literally we stepped out of safety and they just, and we're like, oh no, my boys.
I'm really sad about that, because that episode was really good as well.
Yeah.
Very sad.
is that thing of like RPing it and then just going, I'm so sad right now. Just, oh. So that was a roundabout way of asking what your fantasy table was like. But we're just, I also love the fact that you're like, you've got a literal god there, and also Han Solo, who's like, no such thing as the Force. I know it was only like 19 years ago. Never saw it. Never heard of it. What you gonna do?
I'll just shoot you. If you get mouthy, I'll just shoot you. So you'll be dead.
You're sitting there going, well, that's a choice. I mean, do what you like, but yeah. Oh, wow. I was going to say, do you know what sort of characters they'd be playing to go back to that question? I mean, we could go. You're not going to lay it down. Let them decide. Yeah,
no, they would choose. I feel like they choose things that are out of what you'd expect, because they're already characters. Like, they have characters, but presumably they would play different characters, because like we don't play ourselves.
No. Geralt just like, I'm playing a bard.
I think it would be the most edgelordy table. Very edgelordy.
Again, just some images are just floating in my head, just going, it's going to be so mad. So, well, it's that time again. Let's do it. Let's roll that dice. And we have 8. Well, we're running quite low tonight. How do you feel about PvP?
Mixed. Very mixed. I get very stressed out when people are stressed with each other in the group. So from that sense, I really don't like it very much. Because I just find it very stressful. I think it can create some really interesting character moments. So I think there is value to it from that sense. But I think it requires a lot of safety mechanics to not feel awful. And I think it can so easily tip from like, oh, we're having a lot of fun, to suddenly like one person's upset, to like, oh my God, the whole table's upset. And then to suddenly like, oh, no one's having fun anymore, the game is over. And that line is so fine between like, we're all having fun to one person is upset, that I just think you have to be really, really careful. And like, my line on this is very, very fine.
Yeah.
But like, I can watch other people doing PvP and not feel so stressed. But like, if, say, for example, one of the questions we ask on our we have a form that goes out to all players before campaigns, which is like, you can list off your, it has a list of all like lots of potential triggers, and you can list off like what you don't want to have in game, and like where things might sit for you. One of them is betrayal. Like, how do you feel about betrayal? And that's always for me, like, I'm fine with the party being betrayed by an NPC. I'm fine with another person being betrayed. But if a party member is going to directly betray me, I won't personally be able to handle that. Like, that will make me very upset, and I probably won't be able to continue with the stream at that point. So actually, although that might be fun for someone else, that's not going to be fun for everyone for very long. Because we're going to have to stop. I'm going to have to go and sit in a different room for a bit. And then potentially we're going to have to completely rework that, because I can't role play that. It's just not going to happen. And I think it's such a fine line. And I think you don't necessarily know that about yourself until it happens to you, or unless you've like sat down and had a real long think for yourself. So yeah, I think it's like, it can be really fun. It can be really interesting. But you have to really know yourself. You have to really know the people around your table, and you have to be really comfortable with them. So yeah.
I think, it is that also that feeling of going, okay, why is this party together now? You know, it's I'm doing a home game where they brought in another player, and I was just like, no, we've been so sort of tight knit and quiet, and then just go, hey, guess you're part of the team now. You want to find some secret items with us, you know? But yeah, and I think that's again sort of, then as you said, like the nice not the nice difference, but like there's PvP as in fighting and also PvP as you said, like betrayal, or like the beginning of season 2 of Warriors of Waterdeep, where there was just those sort of butting head moments, and you're also like, no, your guys are a found family.
Well,
and also,
I found that really difficult. Like in the first episode of Warriors, like obviously Thomas and Nomelin are having quite a big argument, and both Niall and Nat were perfectly fine with that, but I found that really stressful. And I said, like, I'm fine with you two having that conflict, but I feel like I have to be part of that conflict because of how Shavaris feels about Thomas. And I feel really uncomfortable with that. So we had quite a long discussion about how that was going to work, in that Shavaris would just not be part of this conflict between Thomas and Nomelin, because I just can't do it. And that first episode, like, although the interplay is really interesting, I found that incredibly stressful to be part of on stream, because it's just not, it's not something that I enjoy. And there's a comment where Nomelin says something and I say back like something like, oh, that's, don't be so gauche. But like saying that, and then afterwards I felt awful because I don't know how Niall feels. And so like there's a whole period after that where I just felt awful. And it just, like, even if it's a moment in stream where like it looks good on stream and like maybe it comes across really well, I don't know, I didn't feel good about it, and it's not worth it. Like, I just don't think it's worth it if you don't feel good.
Yeah, it is that issue where you're like, well, is it right for the character? But also that's it. I mean, that's the whole debate where I was like, yeah, I'm a rogue, I'll steal everything. You're like, oh, I don't want you around then. You know, you can't come fight the dragon with us. I'm sorry, you can't sit with us anymore. You know, just
it's the what my character would do versus like what is good for the party and what actually, like, you're playing a group game, you're not playing an individual game, and like there is that. There are moments where you can be like, no, my character does do this because it doesn't have that much impact on what everyone else does, or like you've had permission to potentially behave in that way from the group because you cleared it. And there are moments where you have to be like, maybe in this instance my character would split off from the group, but we're playing a group game. So if my character splits off from the group in this instance, I'm living the game, or I'm rolling a new character. And if my character truly would leave, that's fine. They leave, they become an NPC, and I make a new character, because that is how the game works. Like, you're playing a group game. You can't just be like, my character is leaving now, so I guess I'm having a one-on-one game, right? That's how this was. Or like half the session is just me on my own over there, right? Like, that's not.
Just occasionally some DM looks over and goes, roll dice, 12. It's going okay, I guess. You know. You're still in the library reading those books. It's just it's 2 days later.
Yeah, I just think it's that cognizance that you're playing with a group and trying to balance that, and sometimes that's really difficult with everyone's different wants and desires, and trying really hard to find that balance. It can be difficult. And I think because we play with so many different groups, I think it is harder for us because it's constantly rebalancing against different people. Whereas if you're playing with like the same 5 people all the time, it's slightly easier because you're like, well, I know how Jimmy plays. I know how, Stephanie plays. Just random people. Random names, like, pull out of the air. I don't have to necessarily recheck every week because I've played with them for 3 years and we have a kind of ongoing balance. Whereas if you're playing a new campaign every 3 months, there is this like, well, I've not played with these people before, or I played with that person, but it was a year ago. So you do have to that resetting boundaries all the time.
And I think that's why the way we handle safety with these games is so important, because as you said, it's not just, oh, I don't like spiders. It is, I don't like, it's that grand concept of betrayal, like, just, I am against betrayal, just. Oh, let's do it again. Rolling that dice. That is a 17. How do you feel about fudging rolls?
Mixed again.
Yeah.
I think if you're the DM, it's necessary sometimes. Like, if you have a monster that's supposed to be terrifying and you roll 20 nat ones in one session, which has happened to me, not as a DM but as a player. You need to push some of those rolls because otherwise your combat is going to fall completely flat and no one's going to have any fun. And I think that's totally fine because like the whole point of the game is to have fun. And if you're like, oh, the dragon misses you both again, and I guess it just stands there. Like, what's the point of that? You put in the monster to be scary, not to be like, well, it missed you again. Like missing once every so often is fun. Rolling in that one is fun when it's like you rolled to hit both times last turn. But missing every single turn, that's not fun for anyone because then they're like, well, we defeated the monster, but it was too easy. And I think there's a line there. As a player, I think the line is significantly harder. I think most of the time you should be going with what the dice say. I think if you're in a moment where you have that feeling of like, if this doesn't go the way I really want it to, I'm going to be incredibly upset about it, or something fundamental about this changes my character in a way that I'm uncomfortable with, then it's fine to, pass the saving throw. Or, I've been stunned for a minute. I've missed 10 turns of combat. I just want to not be stunned anymore. Fudge your roll and get out of stunned. It's fine. Like, no one deserves to be stunned for more than 3 turns in a row. Like, it's fine. I don't know if anyone's watched the very first season of Agents, but in the first season of Agents, Keldon is stunned for the vast majority of all of the combats, either stunned or paralyzed. And there came a point, like, I think in the 8th episode, where I was stunned again, and I'd had enough. Like, at the break, I just had a complete breakdown. I was like, I've been stunned for basically the entirety of all of these combats. I've done very little of what I came here to do, and I cannot be stunned anymore. And Chris was like, it doesn't matter. Roll whatever you roll, pass. And I rolled an 18 on the next roll, but I'm not joking, I was stunned for the vast majority of every single combat. It was awful. I had such a bad time. Yeah. But it happens sometimes. That's what it's like. And we have conversations now about like being really careful with paralyzed and stun effects, because actually it's not really allowing people to show off what they do. And it's not, for example, if you're in a home game and you stun someone, if they're stunned for an hour of in-game time, potentially 2 rounds of combat at high levels, they can go away. They can make a cup of tea. They can go have a fag. They can go call their mum, whatever. Like, you don't necessarily have to stay in the room for the entire time. If you're on a streamed game and someone is stunned for potentially an hour of combat, they have to sit in the room on camera for the entire time that is happening and not do anything. And that is really that's not what anyone's here for. It's not really getting the best out of our players, and it's not really getting the best out of like what we do as performers. So actually, like, stun effects, although they're kind of scary, they're not the best ones to use in streamed games because they're not really enhancing anything. It's like Chris has used stun effects since then, but only for 1 turn. Things that only take effect for 1 turn and then they go. So you're not like, have someone there going like, I've been stunned for like 3 hours now. Why am I here? Because on a stream game, that it's a lot of time to be sat not doing anything. So yeah, I think sometimes you just need the roll to go your way. And I think if you're in that situation, and as a person, sometimes when you're in that situation, and as long as that situation isn't like every second roll or every time you play, potentially, I think it's fine. That's how I feel about it.
I think, and again, sort of doing these talk shows, it is so much of it comes down to sort of going, just be nice, just as you said, where you're just like, okay, it's your turn again. You're still stunned. Moving on. But instead, you're like, why am I here? Although I do like it for if we were doing an episode where someone can't turn up, it's like, yep, you're stunned or you're petrified. It's like, it's just a statue. We just put a little.
Things like dominate effects. Like, I wouldn't use a dominate effect on a streamed game because all you're doing is taking agency away from that player. I use confusion a couple of times in Flustered, and it's okay because the player still rolls on the turn to see if they get to do anything. But again, it just takes agency away from the player. And and it means that on their turn they don't necessarily get to do what they want to do. And I just think, I don't know, I just don't think it's necessary. But dominate in particular, while that person's dominated, all they're doing is you're going, please do this, and they do it. And it takes away, I mean, they can still role play because you could potentially still talk while they're dominated, so it's a little bit better, but I think it removes a little bit of the kind of that player agency for me that is part of why I DM and part of what I enjoy about it.
And I think, again, it's sort of, there are so many effects that you could do. You know, you take 2 out, you know, like, you've got so many other things in the toolbox. You're like, you're not having people going, where's my dominate spell?
Well, and players can still dominate the monsters, which is cool. And they feel good when they've done it, and I don't care.
No. Or, again, like in Flustered, where we're just like, finally, diplomacy is working in combat, which I love that became such a thing where we were just like, no, would you like a job? And then a couple of times people go, yeah, actually. You're like, hooray!
I enjoyed that, like, doing things differently. I think always, like, go by the role. I think it's really fun. It gives people a chance to try different things. And also it gives people a chance to do something different. And if you have a character who's really charismatic and wants to talk rather than fighting, if you allow that to happen, they're going to do it more often. And then maybe they'll have an army of small critters. And you know, if that's the case, that's the case. And some of them will die, but you know, that's the price they pay.
that teaches you to have loved. But even like in the episodes go, where are they? You're like, oh no, oh, where have they gone? You're like, they're fine, they're just outside. You're like,
it's just more roleplay opportunity, isn't it? Because like then you've got to teach the Darklings how to do things because they don't know what to do. Like they don't understand the real world. They don't know how to feed themselves. They don't know how to go about normal society. So it's allowing that just means that you've got more things to roleplay with later. So it's no skin off my nose if you talk to the enemies rather than fighting them.
Yeah. Again, it's opportunities. It's more stuff for the toolbox. Having a look at the time. So, what do you feel? Do you want to roll again, or should we talk about some upcoming excitements? What do you feel?
I'm fine either way. Whatever you would prefer, Tom.
Let's we've got about 15 minutes. Let's talk about tell us what's on the docket.
Well, so at the moment I'm in the Reaping of Golden Fields, which I think the third one just went out.
Yes.
Three. Yes.
3.
Chris is waving an arm at me, but I didn't actually see what the arm.
Again, no fingers, just waving an arm. Up. 5? Are we on 5?
I think it was a thumbs up. That's what I just said.
Yeah.
So we're halfway through the Reaping of Golden Fields, which is very exciting. So when Chris was like, "Oh, I need to run a 6-parter because now the show's ending early," and then I was like, "Well, you were going to do Prosp'rus for Christmas, so maybe you can just do Prosp'rus early as a 6-part. Why not? Just extend it because originally Prosp'rus was designed to be a 4-parter." And then Chris shortened it to be 1 part for Christmas because that was what we had scheduling for. And then when the opportunity came up, we just extended it to be a 6-part again. So it changed around a little bit. And then I got really excited because Chris was like, yeah, we're going to go back to Golden Field. We're going to see where P came from. P's going to be under house arrest. And then like 3 weeks later, Chris was like, oh yeah, and it's a horror campaign. It's like, what? What just happened? Where did that come from?
Yeah.
So yeah, P's in a horror campaign, which is a bit unnerving. Chris has assured me that Prosp'rus is probably not going to die, which is slightly unnerving. But yes, so far we've seen Prosp'rus's old friend Foray, who Mike's playing. We've met the other characters, none of whom Prosp'rus knew previously, so they're all weird and strange. I don't think any of the other players would have an issue with me saying that they are all playing weird and strange characters.
Yes, I think that's fair.
Then we met the abbot, who is just awful, incompetent. We've had strange goings on in Golden Field, and it is now, unfortunately, under the control of Orcus. who appeared in Prosp'rus's head pretending to be Shantea, which was, I think, the worst bit of the last session.
Yeah.
For me, personally. So now we're on the hunt for this mythical well, which is where the Wonder Walkers is going to go, apparently. And we're going to try and find the well in Goldfield so that we can stop the Wonder Walkers being put there. Apart from that, Chris is like, yeah, you need to go and talk to the barrel tree. And I was like, but also you need to go and take all these people to the gate, which is in the opposite direction to the barrel tree. And anyone who's played D&D will know this is a classic DM trick to be like, you need to go here, but you need to go here. So currently we're on our way back to the gate with a whole load of civilians, about 400 of them. And we're currently under attack from Prosp'rus's old, not so much mentor, because Prosp'rus's old mentor was Edie, their partner, who unfortunately died a few years ago. Prosp'rus is part of a paladin order called the Shepherds. For anyone who hasn't watched The Reaping Golden Fields, if you have, you'll be aware of the Shepherds.
Shepherds?
And Edie was part of the Shepherds. Edie brought Prosp'rus into the Shepherds, trained Prosp'rus as a paladin. Edie was a dwarf. And Edie died during an attack on Golden Fields that I'm just going to refer to him as the Bastard because I can't remember his name.
The Bastard.
Who was the leader of the Shepherds at the time, led, and his tactics led to a lot of the Shepherds dying and basically the wiping out of the Shepherds as they were at the time. And he gave Prosp'rus's scythe, which was the weapon Icewind Dale corrupted that Prosp'rus was carrying, and basically went away to kind of repent. And during the last episode, the Bastard attacked all these people as a headless horseman and tried to kill P, and did not quite succeed on killing P. P did, in fact, kill the first form of the Bastard, who then came back as mythic. So we're going to have to kill him again. It'll be fine. It wasn't that hard.
We're not concerned.
No, it took one round of combat. Although, to be fair, in that one round of combat, I think they did like nearly 100 points of damage. It was ridiculous.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it was a lot. And now they'll have mythic actions as well. Mythic actions tend to be worse. So yeah, it's gonna be a hefty second battle. But so far, no civilians have died. So
So ticking that box. When you're writing up the Shepherd report, you're like, no civilians died. So well done.
Good.
Yeah.
But yeah. Currently, the headless horseman is going like, "Where's my scythe?" More ominously than that, because Chris, does ominous voices. And it's a bit unfortunate because that scythe is currently in the Icewind Dale with Kenna and it's not coming back. But yeah, it's really difficult because Prosp'rus has such a long backstory at this point, because there's all the backstory that I wrote for the original Icewind Corrupts campaign. Well, like a paragraph. I wrote a paragraph. It wasn't that much. I don't write really long backstories. There was a fair amount. Like there was the story with Edie, there was the story with the Shepherds. And then Prosp'rus went to Icewind Dale, and there's the whole story of Icewind Dale Corrupted, which is quite a fair adventure. And then Prosp'rus went to the Sea of Swords and did Sea of Swords, whatever it's called. Something.
Sea of Swords, Electric Boogaloo, because it always seems to be Electric Boogaloo.
Who knows? It's definitely called Sea of Swords, something. Forsaken. Chris says it's called Forsaken. If Chris had gone with one of my suggestions and made it alliterative, I would have remembered it. But Chris doesn't like alliteration as much as I do. So it's not, Sea of Swords, Storms, which was what I wanted to call it.
That voice, Storms.
There was a really big storm. It would have been
There was.
Anyway, yeah, Chris doesn't like alliteration as much as I do. We have this back and forth whenever we name campaigns, because we name campaigns together because two heads is better than one. Where Chris is like, I've got this title for mine, it's really cool, and then I'm like, I've got this title for mine, it's alliterative. We spend about a day with each other going like, what about this one? What about this one? What about this one? What about this one? And then usually Chris is like, you really liked your alliterative one, didn't you? And I'm like, I did.
Yeah.
Like, okay, do that one then.
You just need to get through 26 campaigns. So you're like, we have the collection. We've done all the xenographic xylophones. The one shot coming this fall.
We have this joke now that when people see an alliterative campaign title from Roll Together, they'll just know it's probably me DMing it.
It's not a bad trademark, is it? You're just like, alliteration must be an M. So yes, so as you said, P has had a extensive. So yeah, what were you saying about 3 campaigns worth of adventures, and now this one as well. So yeah, there's a lot going on, and there's stuff that Chris and I have discussed that we're like building towards with P, in terms of like where P goes next, because P is level 12. Yeah.
Is P level 12 or is P level 13? He's level 12, which for a paladin is quite high level. And once you get to level 13, you get 4th level spells. 4th level spells mean I get to summon a Pegasus, just as a preamble for anyone who's watching. And I'm hoping that when we get to level 13, we'll get to level 13 before a long rest, that I can summon a Pegasus and still smite at 4th level, because if we get to level 13 and have a long rest, then it's like the big fight's going to be tomorrow. I'm going to have to choose whether I have a Pegasus or smite at 4th level, and that is an impossible choice. How do you choose?
I like to think that's also happening in character. You're like,
I know.
Such a choice.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
The Pegasus is going to be called Percy when they do appear. Because he also likes alliteration.
Again, where you're just like, I will get a Pegasus, and they will be called Percy, and I will love them, and they will. I've already prepared the saddle. I'm really excited. I love the idea of like people being like, and now I have a winged horse that I fly around on, and this is my life now. But yeah, I'm laying the groundwork that P isn't necessarily going to stay in Goldenfield, isn't necessarily going to be like, and now I lead this bunch of random level 5 characters that I'm training. Like, I don't think P is going to be like, staying in Goldenfield. I don't think that's what's next. I mean, if we're going to have to go hunt down Orcus, that's definitely not what's next. No. But when you do, by God, you're going to have a Pegasus.
Well, the level 20 devotion paladin thing, which, someday, one day my prince will come, is that for 1 minute, you get to radiate out light like the sun, and do like extra damage on all of your hits. It's amazing. But yeah, like you basically turn into the sun for a minute, which is just like beautiful. And I want to look at what the other thing is, because it's really good. Where is it? Let me find it. Hang on. It will take me 2 minutes.
No problem.
Oh no, that's paladin spells. I don't want that.
I don't want that. I want to know what else I can do apart from being the sun.
I just want to tell you because it's really good.
Yeah, please do. I'm excited to hear.
Holy Nimbus. As an action, you can emanate an aura of sunlight. For 1 minute, bright light shines from you in a 30-foot radius. Dim light shines 30 foot beyond that. Whenever an enemy creature starts to turn the bright light, the creature takes 10 radiant damage. In addition, for the duration, you have advantage on saving throws against spells cast by fiends or undead. So yeah, you go stand next to the fiends, and then they just take 10 points of damage every single turn, just for a minute.
just standing near them, like, oh look, here comes the sun. Well, I hope he gets there. That's again on a wish list. It could happen.
I'm really excited for like at some point the level 20 SmackDown, when it's like 5 really well loved roll together characters go and smack down with like some massive thing, hopefully a fiend or an undead.
It's just Faye, and you're like, oh come on. Can I be a little bit undead? A little bit, come on. Necrotic? Yeah.
Just something that, hates radiant damage.
I've planned so long for this.
I know, and like for 15th level, you're always under the effects of protection from evil and good spell. It's so good. It's just so good.
One of the many reasons to love being a paladin.
I know.
Yeah.
And I'm not done with them yet. I have more thoughts. My next thing that I'm going to play though. So for Christmas, the next thing I'm playing is a Rune Knight fighter. So that's the ones that have been given the giant runes. So he is a halfling who, when he gets when he gets in a fight, turns into a large halfling. So he carries around a great sword on his back that is too big for him to wield. So if he gets into a fight and he can't turn giant, he can't pick up his sword. He just has to punch people. So yeah, I just love the concept of being a halfling and then suddenly being huge. So yeah, I'm looking forward to playing that. And then at some point in the future, I have 2 Hergispice. Hergispice? I don't know. This will tell me off if it's wrong. One is Clive. Clive has been on the docket for so long. I desperately want to play him. Clive is an Aarakocra blade singer wizard. So the idea with Clive is that when he does his blade song, it's his mating dance. So he's a really colourful, bright bird. And then, and he's really like sedate and, reserved and quite wizardy. But then when he gets into combat, he's like, yeah. I know, it's amazing. That's the entire concept, but I really want to play it. But you don't get your blade song till like level 2, so like that means you're a reserved wizard for like a level, and suddenly you're like, I've learned how to dance. I'm really excited about that. And my second one is a really filthy combo. It's really bad. Do you want to hear it?
Go on.
If you mix divination wizards with grave clerics,
right?
If you mix divination wizard with grave clerics in the right combination, which is mostly divination wizard and a little bit of grave cleric, you get path to the grave, which means that you can guarantee on the next turn that someone gets that the creature is vulnerable to all damage inflicted by the next thing that hits it. If you have rolled the correct divination dice, you can guarantee the next hit. So if you are a divination wizard cleric, grave cleric, with a paladin in the party, you can hold your action to make the thing vulnerable to the next hit, guarantee the paladin's hit. If you're lucky, you'll have a crit, but I mean, that would happen very rarely. And then you can guarantee the paladin's hit, and the paladin can smite, and it will be vulnerable to all damage, so all damage will be doubled. It's filthy.
My God. Glasses off. Just, no.
But it's filthy in a good way, because you're buffing other people, not being like, I have all the power. But you're making other people powerful, so it's good.
It's teamwork. It's nice.
Yeah, and then you're just using all your spells to heal people. It's great.
Yeah. Amazing.
And they're a kobold.
Oh. Just like that. Just. Oh. Wow. Okay.
And
go on.
We're probably close to time now. But and the next campaign that I'm DMing, which the next one shot that I'm DMing, is Ancient Antics, which you are aware of, Tom, because you're playing. Is
and I happen to be playing a certain class, a certain paladin. Hey, you remember when we were talking about paladins being green? This guy,
Green Paladin.
Yeah, Green Paladin.
Ancient Antics is going to be a one-shot where like a group of heroes of the realm go and do something heroic. It feels very classic, which doesn't feel very me, but it's super classic. Maybe there'll be a twist. Who knows? But yes, so that's what you're going to be doing. You're going to be like heroes of the realm. It's set a very long time ago. It's set about 2,000 years ago, based on current Faerun, not based on like modern times. And you're going to all go. You've got a party of, I love the party. The party is so great.
Yeah.
Are going to go and do something super heroic.
Again, just looking at the party where there's no humans. We're all these brightly coloured that I am playing I think it's Oath of the Kingdom. So I'm like traditional knight. This is what I do. I serve my ruler. I can also have a thing where I can just take damage for other people. just lean into an attack and go, that hit me. It's going to be an insane one shot. It's going to be a grand time. It's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to it. And as
She's done some epic art for it as well.
It is that delight of like going, oh my goodness. It's like we're saying about like watching cosplay or something. You're like, oh my goodness, that's what I look like.
Yes.
And similarly, like we're saying, like with the wiki, where you're like, oh, I just mentioned this in passing, and then G's like, cool, this is like one of your main things. You're like, Ooh. Like, again, I was looking at the art where my character is now with a greatsword. And I was like, greatsword, you say?
Yeah. Great sword paladin. It's classic. It's classic, Tom. It's just really powerful, and in combination with Growth Master, you get to reroll 1s and 2s. It's so good.
Yeah. I also like the fact I have a whole thing about compelling duels, with my power that I have to do with a greatsword and go, we're going to have to fight now. But it's going to have to be honourable. Do you have a sword? Can I give you a sword? Do you need to fight?
I give you a sword.
Well, again, to have an unarmed foe, that's very dishonourable. That's not part of your oath.
I don't think you've got a lot to worry about there.
Yeah. No. I also like the fact that basically I'm like, I've just put myself completely in your hands. You're like, just tell me what the tenets of this kingdom are. And you're like, yeah, you're not allowed to do this. I'm like, well, if my ruler says I'm not allowed to do that, I'm not allowed to do it. That's my oath.
I feel like no matter what I say, Tom, midstream you're going to be like, yeah, no, and we're not allowed to go swimming.
Yeah.
Just the rules.
I think I was mentioning like one of the other characters has children. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's not allowed. And I'm like, where in the rules does it say we're not allowed to have families? I'm like, just seem right. you should love your kingdom. And I'm like, hey, you okay? I'm like, no, not really. Oh, so yeah, my goodness, quite a lot to look forward to.
Yeah. It's all going on. But yeah, Ancient Antics is going to be great, and we'll see what happens at the end and see what's coming up next.
Yeah. We're going to space. The knights are going to the moon.
We're not going to space.
Oh, come on. I'm just like, we never get to go to space. Any of your previous campaigns where you're like, that's just an option. You're like, oh, well, you stopped, you stopped the heart stealing, but the moon.
I don't think I've ever sent anyone to space, because space would, I guess, be the astral plane or like the astral sea. And I've not ever sent anyone to the astral sea because that would be quite dangerous. Again,
put it in your back pocket where you're just like, yeah, you just gone to like a star. Star spawn everywhere. Good luck, enjoy.
You die now.
Yeah. Same, like we're like, well, you're not in this campaign anymore. You're dead. No, we're not confirmed. You were never seen again. It doesn't necessarily mean you're dead. You're just somewhere in the astral sea.
No one consenting to you, but you're probably not dead. Who knows?
Do you think you're dead? No? You're good. Great. Good for you. Okay, on that note, anything else you'd like to plug?
I think that's everything. Definitely watch The Reaping of Golden Fields, because it is excellent, and everyone else is bringing their absolute aim game. So it is really, it's a great stream, and it's much fun. And Prosp'rus is great, and I love Prosp'rus, but everyone else's characters are much fun. I'm bringing some much needed intelligence and sass to the campaign. It's really good. So yeah, watch Reaping. Come watch Ancient Antics when it streams, and watch A Merry Krampus, which is where Billy, not Billy, sorry, they used to be called Billy, they're now called Jodak, and I'm going to continue to call them Billy accidentally, but they're called Jodak. Will be rune knighting success. But yes, and there's a couple of other Christmas one-shots that are going to be really good fun. So Sean is DMing one which is based on Panto, so that's going to be awesome. And Chris is DMing another horror-themed one-shot, because Chris just can't get enough of horror, where I understand there's going to be a lot of freezing. So I think the characters are going to be freezing. So yes, I think that is our whole roster of Christmas one-shots that are coming up after Reaping and Lonely House Never Went to End. So yeah, do come along and watch all of those.
Amazing. So thanks to everyone for watching. As we said, we are streaming every Friday, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. GMT, and we're streaming Monday and Tuesdays. Monday is This is always the thing. So is that
Reaping.
the reaping occurs on Monday. Have your skull masks ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Tuesdays is Sean's campaign, which again, it's titled
The Lonely House of Neverwinter is Sean's campaign.
I'm just like, spooky house. The house that was spooky. Very sort of Garth Marenghi style titles. The house that was scary. The house that did a spook. Okay, so we are streaming our shows at twitch.tv/rolltogetherrpg. There will now be a link in chat for our YouTube. And don't forget, we're also available as podcasts. So, many thanks to our D20s. Many thanks to our D20s. You're welcome.
Just to Tom's D20, just for holding us out through the stream.
Look how shiny you are. Well done. Little kiss. And that's when Tom swallowed his die.
No.
Yes, dice heads. You're great. Keep doing what you're doing. We love you. And also thanks to our sponsors and supporters. And I beg you, my friends, please, stay classy at the table. I beg you.